Hrag, hello and welcome the Hollywood Times.
Thank you
I
so much
wanted,
for having me.
you're welcome. I wanted to get you after your big premiere at Dances with Films. Give us your full name, your role, and how you came about this project.
First of all, thank you for having me and watching the film and covering the film. So, my name is Hrag Yedalian. I'm the director on the film, the documentary film titled Beneath the Ashes, The Past Reimagined. And the way I started working on the film was the night of the fire. So the Eaton Fire happened in January of 2025. The night of the fire, I evacuated with my family. So I had a 5 year old and a 6 year old at the time. They've grown since, but it was scary. And a few hours later, I started hearing from friends, many of whom lived a mile away from me in the fire zone. And people's terrible stories started flooding in, people losing homes, people needing to evacuate, not knowing what's going to happen. And by the time we woke up in the morning, the entire community had changed. So it went from a vibrant, amazing community to within, I'd say, 24 hours, over 9,000 structures had come down in flames, which is astonishing. And so we had been filming in the area already. So we decided to make this project, and that's how the film came into being.
Got it. Right. Brandon, you two were already working together. Can you tell me about that story? That's amazing. Before the fire.
Yeah, so we started filming just a few days after the fire. 10 days, we decided early on. The fire happened 2 to 3 days later. There was so much goodwill in the community that people were mobilizing and doing stuff for their neighbors. And I knew that as a filmmaker, I needed to do something. And that something was going out there and documenting what was happening specifically to the Black community. But my producing partner, Brandon Lamar, and I actually had started filming a separate project only 2 months earlier
Gosh.
about about the racialized history of Pasadena and Altadena. So we were on the ground filming, and once the fire hit, I spoke to Brandon, and we collectively decided this is going to take an entirely new route, and we need to focus on the fires and specifically how the fire impacted the African American community of Altadena.
And Brian is the president of the NAACP in Pasadena.
Yeah, yeah.
Some notes about craft, because a lot of our viewers are creators as well. As I watched the film, it felt like it was pleasantly divided into chapters. I'm calling them chapters. It had a visual and a title of the different progress of the storyline. I really liked that because it helped me as a viewer organize the information so it wasn't all at me at once. And I'm wondering how you came to that. And was it for the viewers or for you as an organizing mind on that? Or tell us more.
Yeah, quite frankly, it was for my mind. It was just the way my mind works. It's anyone who's done a feature length documentary knows how difficult it is to piece things together, to keep the flow going, to keep things coherent. And so I figured as I'm editing the film, if I could divide my thoughts up into chapters like short films, I could even
Mm.
stand on their own. So a lot of the chapters range from about 4 minutes to 6 minutes. So you could watch those and still walk away with kind of a complete story. And it was done just so we could get the film moving. It might, but some might see it as a disadvantage because they like films not being divided up into chapters. But I love it. It's how my mind works, and I'm so happy to hear that it worked for you too.
There was a lot of heart in your film. The end scene really struck me with the pastor playing the organ passionately. Tell me how you came about, like some of those personal touches.
Yeah, those personal touches were extremely important for the film and just for the messaging, just in general. It was from day one, it was really important for us to make everything authentic, including the music. And the pastor that you're referencing, his name is Pastor Bereal, and he lost his church. And so the way we got to him was we had been interviewing another person who's our producers, Brandon Lamar's barber, ran Vance. And so we found a person who lost a generational home, and then we were looking for a person who lost a church. And he said, "That's my father in law. My father in law lost a church. You should interview him." And so when we went to interview him, what we discovered was that he comes from a family of musicians. But in addition, on the side, like a side hustle, which I found super interesting, he repairs organs. And I said, "Hey, I hadn't thought about it before, but what if we make the music super authentic and we record you playing the organ?" So he agreed very kindly. We went to another church in Pasadena. He sat down for about 2 hours and just played and had no idea how we
Wow.
were going to use the music when the film was finished. And he saw it at a community screening that we had. He was very touched by it.
I was too. That's very nice. Is there anything that you want to communicate about the film that hasn't been asked before?
Yeah, I think I would talk about, and this is what I told the audience at the end of the screening. It was the last thing that I told the audience after our film showed at Dances with Films, which is this is a message to all filmmakers out there, which is do not wait. If there's an urgent story to tell, or if you're dying to tell a story, you have this urgency, go out there and don't wait. One of the most amazing parts of this film was the the fires happened on January 7th of 2025. We locked picture on January 10th of 2026. So it took a year.
Amazing.
It took a year from start to finish, including all the shooting. And
God,
we didn't wait. And the key message that I have is do not wait. If there's a story to tell, we live in an era where you have your smartphone, you could just go out there and capture footage and you capture your story. And as long as I'm so appreciative that you say that you see heart in the film, and that's exactly what we strive to do. If there is a story and if it has heart, go out there and shoot it and don't wait. Because the you may think that the conditions are not ideal, but it's exactly those not so ideal conditions that may lead to an ideal film for you.
wow. Nice. Craft process question. It's days after the fire. You get this urge because you're a storyteller and a documentarian to capture it, to tell the story of a community. There's probably so many things internally and externally saying no. How did you rise above that and make that call and gather your team like you just did? Or
Yeah, we just did it 2 days after the fires, 2 days or 3 days after the fire. I called the film cinematographer, Emrys Roberts,
chemists, yeah,
and I said, "Hey, how do you feel about going into the fire?" Because there were a lot of things involved. We knew we wanted to go film the aftermath, but there's also, for anyone who lived through it, the National Guard was there. It was
wow,
difficult getting into the place in the first place, but also there's still concerns about what's next. We were interested in flying a drone, capturing drone shots, and there were a lot of just very basic filmmaker considerations that didn't align with the realities on the floor. And on top of it, we're walking through the stuff. A lot of electric cars burned down. We don't know the environmental impact about all that stuff. So it was just a crazy time. And we were fortunate to capture it because, as literally a few weeks after we shot stuff, we would go back and they would clear it. And so we didn't know at the time, but we were capturing the history of the community as it was happening. And had we waited even 2 months, 3 months, 4 months for the grant money to come in or the
yes,
ideal conditions to emerge, it wasn't going to happen. We would have captured a completely different story. And the last thing that I would say about that is it's not only the physical, meaning it's not the nature or the burnt homes or the conditions or it's actually the people's perspective. Had we not interviewed them on the spot in the aftermath of this incident, I've noticed, because I've interviewed many people after, perceptions change.
Ooh,
People, the story, they hear other stories. And so
oh,
their stories, not that they change for better or for worse, they just change.
yes.
And people are in therapy and they're dealing with their coping mechanisms, and people change. And so the fact that we capture the emotion so fresh, I will say this. Some people say, because they've seen material at post Eaton Fire of
Yes.
of people who have gone through it, and they say the interviews that we've seen tend to be more emotional than the interviews in your film. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of interviews out there, and I've conducted many interviews post the documentary where people break down and they cry during the interviews. And I found that because we captured everything so early, people were in survival mode. They didn't have
Yeah,
I'm going to call it the luxury to cry. They were literally, they had lost their homes. They were figuring out what comes next.
yeah.
And they were shell shocked. That's the best way to describe it. And a year later, when I was interviewing people, not for the documentary, people would break down. They had time to process it. What the documentary does, it captures people in its rawest form post fire. And that's really a remarkable fact about the film.
That is. That's just doing, just not feeling, but doing. Yeah, you did. You really captured that. Fascinating. Very fresh.
Yeah. And as filmmakers, we just needed to do. We didn't know what we were doing, to be
Same
quite honest.
thing.
Yeah, same thing. We were just doing
Same thing. You're
because,
just in
yeah,
action. Yeah, it
yeah.
really shows. That's nice. I know you've had a nice film fest run at Dances with Films 2026 Los Angeles. What's next and how can we show more people this film and the resources that it lets the communities know about?
Yeah, the film is intended to be a community film. Just a few days ago, I was on the phone with the Pasadena Rotary Club. Brandon's been reaching out to people in the community. The idea is to, unlike a lot of documentary films where the festival process continues and you show it at different festivals and you have that entire process going, with us, we want to get it into the community because for the community, it's very urgent. And
Yes.
so, whether it's an audience of 5 people or 500 people, we just need to show the film very urgently because even though a year and a half has passed since the fires, there are countless people who I just yesterday I was looking at photos of these neighborhoods. No one's there yet. Out of every 10 homes in the burn zone, maybe there's one home. There might be two or three that are being rebuilt, but the people are still not there. They're dislocated. And we need to make sure that people understand that this is a film about diversity, and diversity cannot be preserved until we take action. And so that's really the next step for the film. Yeah.
It's a very pivotal time right now, and it makes the urgency of your film even more valid. I'd like to help spread that word.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, and artistically, I think it was creative as well. It's pleasant on
Thank
the
you.
eye. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hrag, for making this film along with
Oh, yeah.
your
Thank
partners and the crew. Good, good. All right. I think that'll wrap up our conversation. I thank you for your time and your
Of
work.
course. Thank you. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.